Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk specifically about Dungeons & Dragons and why Index Card RPG should actually be Dungeons & Dragons 6th Edition. Alright, so let's jump into this. Alright, so I'm fully on board on Index Card RPG. So this is my take. I'm going to super summarize it. Dungeons & Dragons is the originator. Nothing can surpass Dungeons & Dragons because it is the father of all tabletop role-playing games, right? It is the seed that all role-playing games grow from, right? Nothing can surpass it because it is the first, okay? Now, with that said, Dungeons & Dragons is Dungeons & Dragons, okay? Index Card RPG is really Dungeons & Dragons perfected. And I mean, absolutely perfected across every axis. Art, layout, rules, those are the key components, right? And it is tremendous. It is Index Card RPG is Dungeons and Dragons perfected. Okay. Now, even as a perfected version of Dungeons and Dragons, it still doesn't surpass Dungeons and Dragons because it was only able to accomplish what it accomplished because it literally stands on the shoulders of Dungeons and Dragons, right? You can't surpass Dungeons and Dragons from the perspective of it being the genesis, the source, right? All right, so that's my take as far as where these two lie. But I also just real quick, I want to give you my current structure for Index Card RPG. I am running Index Card RPG almost exclusively now. I just got done running several small story arcs for my friends. We played Bearcats. We did an Alfheim adventure, and it really was tremendous. It went extremely, extremely well, right? And I'm right now getting ready to do two PAX for PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia in 2019. I'll be doing two Index Card RPG sessions for that convention, and I'm having a blast building those out. It's really it's darn near a flawless game. Okay, Index Card RPG is incredible, right? Now, real quick, I'll just give you the overall boil down of what Index Card RPG. So Index Card RPG uses all the same statistics as Dungeons & Dragons: strength, con, dex, intelligence, charisma, wisdom, right? But then it doesn't do damage, it does effort, right? Every single thing you do, you have to do points to achieve the goal. Just like when you're gonna slay a goblin, or an orc would be better. You got to do 6 points, and then you got to do another 6 points. Now you've done 12 points in between two different actions. You've put enough effort into damage to knock that orc down, right? Well, in Index Card RPG, there are three types of efforts, and there are four types of efforts. There is basic effort. That is anything done without a tool, right? So actually, it's anything that's done that is not magic or weapon effort, okay? Weapon effort is the most basic. It is straight damage, just like you would do in Dungeons & Dragons. Magic damage is, and it's a D6, right? When you roll weapon damage, you roll a D6. When you roll magic damage in Index Card RPG, you roll a D8. When you do ultimate damage is done when you hit a natural 20. When you do a crit, you get to roll your weapon or your magic, whichever you rolled, and a D12. Right, it's huge. It's really big. Right, it's like a lot of effort that you're going to do. Right, and then finally, basic is anything that is not weapon or magic effort. Right, and that's a D4. Right, and between those different items, right there, right, the game. One other thing it does is when you roll at it. So you roll at target numbers exactly like you do in Dungeons and Dragons, right? But you're adding your bonus from your stat, right? And it gets rid of the whole 18 plus 2. 18 would be a plus 4. Gets rid of all that, and it's just like plus 1, plus 2, plus 3, plus 4, right? Super simple. And basically, when you go into a room, when you go into a room in Index Card RPG, the room has a difficulty. You set it at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, somewhere in that range. You can go higher than that, but it's pretty rare. and then everybody rolls at the target, and no matter what you're attempting to do in that room, it doesn't matter if you're hacking the dragon in that room or his wizard companion, you're going to go at the target of the room, and you're going to try to exceed that, right? And it's a simulation, right? Just like Dungeons and Dragons, but what it does is it runs so much faster than Dungeons and Dragons. Like, Index Card RPG is truly 3 to 4, maybe 5 or 6 times, depending on the gun. It is a range of 3 to 6 times faster than Dungeons and Dragons, right? So literally something that would take an hour in Dungeons and Dragons will take you 10 minutes, right? 30 max in Index Card RPG. And I want to make this super clear. There are a ton of games that claim to do this. A perfect example of this would be Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds pretends to be an easy, fast-playing system. Just take a look at Savage Worlds Rifts. It's worse than the original in some ways. It's not a good game, right? And I really feel like Savage Worlds, it wants to be faster. It isn't, right? It's just not a faster system than Dungeons and Dragons. And if it is, it's marginal. It's like 10 or 20%, right? And so one of the things is, like, Brandish Gilham, he is the person who's responsible for Index Card RPG. Index Card RPG is just it's a 3-pointer from over the half line. Like, it is a stellar execution on a tabletop role-playing game. All right, so why should Index Card RPG be 6th edition, right? So the biggest reason by far is we now understand something. Going into 6th edition, right, we now understand a few things. So one thing we understand is that the biggest impact on 5th edition, right, and really on Dungeons & Dragons during its 5th edition stage is streaming. Streaming is huge, right? Matthew Mercer is truly the face of Dungeons & Dragons today. It is not Kate Welch. It is not Mike Merles. Matthew Mercer is the face of Dungeons & Dragons today. And the reason why is he brought those games to the masses, right? And what he has accomplished has been incredibly impressive, right? But the reality is Dungeons & Dragons is really failing him. It is high complexity, and I hear you. You're like, it's not, Scott. It's one of the simplest games ever. You're 100% right. Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is not high complexity for role-playing game players, for traditional role-playing game players. But for regular muggle people, right, people who play video games and people who, like, watch streaming services and people who go to the movies and just, not down in the weeds tabletop role-playing game fans who have an incredibly high tolerance for complexity, Dungeons & Dragons 5th is complex, and it is slow. It is complex, and it is slow, right? Index Card RPG preserves every single wonderful, beautiful, awesome thing that Dungeons & Dragons has, and it increases the speed by 3 to 6 times. 3 to 6 times, right? That means your 4-hour game is going to finish in if you cut that into a third, an hour and a half, right? Like, that's a big deal. That is a huge deal. 4-hour sessions can start to come in at the rate of a movie, right? Now, this is a huge deal when we're seeing that that tabletop role-playing game's new real purpose may be to supply entertainment to the masses, right? A new vector for stories, right? And right now, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is hinting that it can do that, right? And it's gotten a lot of traction with Matthew Mercer. But if Matthew Mercer had a true system that actually allowed real cinematic play rather than a rule slog, right, which is really what D&D 5th edition is compared to Index Card RPG, you could really unleash the ability for streaming games to be very, very immersive, right? Very immersive. And it's a huge opportunity, right? Now, okay, so the first reason is streaming, right? It would make 4-hour games much, much shorter, and it would make streaming games much more compelling to watch. That is a very, very big deal, right? And if you don't think it is, Matthew Mercer, based on what he did with 5th edition, just sold Vox Machina 2 seasons to Amazon Prime, right? That's a big deal. That's a huge occurrence for for Dungeons and Dragons and for Matthew and really for Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not sure it really matters that way. It matters a little bit to Matthew Mercer. His ball is going to keep rolling regardless, right? But for Dungeons and Dragons, there's a lot on the table, right? There's a lot of things that need to get worked out, right? So it's a big deal. The second reason is I think it would be available for a song, right? Brandish Gilhelm, it's pretty much it was a one-man shop. It's not anymore. He has a dedicated team of collaborators who are doing a tremendous job helping him to expand the game, but the game really doesn't need much expansion, right? The reality is the Index Card RPG 2nd edition is near flawless. It's way better than Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. They're not really even comparable at this point, even though I still don't say that Index Card RPG is a better game. It just has better rules, better art, better layout, but it's not. But it can only be better because it stands on top of Dungeons & Dragons' shoulders, right? It owes so much to Dungeons & Dragons that it really can't surpass it, right? All right. I know that seems like a weird distinction, but it's important to me, right? Like, I think you have to pay respects to the originator, right? All right. So the second one is, I think they could go to Brandish Gilhelm, and they could get it for a song. I don't think they'd have to pay much at all. They can skip a whole year or two of these nonsense play tests, which are really, in my opinion, pretty meaningless. Those play tests, I think, in my opinion, the play tests, what they are, design team's going to do what the design team's going to do, and the play test is a flourish that makes people feel like they're involved, right? And really what you're doing there is you're just getting people engaged early. They're getting to see some of the rules early. They're getting excited. It's great, but the drive's still coming from the design team. And all that's going to happen from the playtest is some flourishes. You're not really going to get any design drive from the playtests, right? It doesn't mean they're meaningless, and I think they mean a lot to a lot of people. And I think that's good. I have no problems with people getting excited about the playtest. It's not as important as I think a lot of people think it is, right? So you have that there, right? So that's in place as well. So streaming is one reason, and I think you could pick this. I think like $250,000, $500,000. You could skip all 2-3 years of production, bring in a game that is going to be darn near flawless for streaming, right? And in addition to that, bring in something incredibly new and fresh, right? And one of the things that I think is really interesting too is I really think you could have Brandish Gilhelm do the art. You could go with the same white, black, red themes. It's very spare. It's very modern. It's very and one of the things it does is it immediately removes all those issues with the art, because I think as it stands right now, D&D is going to get themselves into trouble with art. They have a massive checklist of stuff they want to accomplish with art that has nothing to do with the game. It's way more message than narrative. Has nothing to do with the mechanics. It has to do with a whole host of things that many of Dungeons & Dragons fans are not going to care about, and it's just going to upset them, right? But actually, Index Card RPG has sidestepped almost all of that because it's pure black and white imagery, right? With this kind of Sharpie style that is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful and spare and elegant, right? And matches the beauty and the spareness and the elegance of the rules itself, right? It's just flawless, right? And I think if you delivered this as the new Dungeons and Dragons, I think this is what would happen, right? I think there would be an immediate uproar from all the people who are 50 years and older who like Dungeons and Dragons, which frankly, well, by the way, I'm 49, so I'm not in that group. Frankly, who cares what they think? Come on, like, they're going to be dead, 10, 20 years from now. They're not the future of the game, right? They are the past of the game, and they frankly should not have a loud say, just from natural causes, of course. They shouldn't have a loud say in what the next edition of the game is. It's just, there's no need for that, right? So the reality is there will be an outcry from them because it will be something very fundamentally different. And I think a lot of people are like, I don't know, man, that doesn't look great, right? But then when they see how fast it runs in the streams and how inviting it is, and how real, actual, average Americans with average intelligence and average tolerance for complexity can engage with this game and tell really compelling, fun, amazing stories, I think they will be absolutely blown away, right? And I think the streams will shut down the woe cries. There will be woe cries, without a doubt, right? But the streams, which have fun, short, compelling stories that are just filled with a lot of ideas and a lot of different worlds and a lot of winsome action, right, that runs at a pace 3 to 6 times faster than Dungeons & Dragons and doesn't lose a single awesome thing from Dungeons & Dragons, it'll be incredible. I really think it's like a 1-2 step. I really think WotC should, here's the flow. WotC goes, talks to Brandish Gilhelm and says, hey, $500,000, we want to buy the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel. They do a refresh on the rules, 10 to 20% changes max, right? And nothing they add can slow the game down, right? Use Brandish Gilhelm to refresh his art, right? And then release, essentially release Index Card RPG 3 as Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition. Allow it to dominate, for 3 to 6 months in the streaming world. All the woe cries will disappear, right? And the reality is it will do well, right? Now, one of the other reasons why I'm saying this too is it's not going to sell a ton of copies, right? And the reason why is one of the things we all need to start realizing is the books, the Dungeons & Dragons books, they don't mean a thing. They really don't, right? Like, the entire tabletop role-playing game industry is $75 million a year, right? Nobody cares about $75 million a year. All they care about is that the Dungeons & Dragons name, the brand, remains healthy, right? Continues to spread so they can move toward their $2 billion launch movie. That's what matters. That's what matters, right? A very nice, parent couple in Nebraska buying Dungeons & Dragons sheets. That's what matters. Nobody cares about $75 million in books, right? That does not matter. The game needs to stay healthy. This is absolute rock solid, simple, right? So Brandish Gilhelm refreshes the art, and you get Index Card RPG 3 as Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, and overseeing the entire thing would be Kate Welch, who's incredibly good with social media and would be incredibly good as a design lead, especially to oversee essentially a migration, right? And it's a lock. It's a lock. This would be huge success. I think it would be incredibly effective for everyone, right? And I think Hasbro Gaming would be very, very interested in this because they can see what they're going to before they go to it. And in many ways, it's risk-free because 4th edition was an absolute debacle, right? And I think what they don't want to do is they do not want to try to roll the dice on some risky design thing and end up with a new edition that opens the gate for a new Paizo, right? You do not want that. You do not want that, right? So it is my opinion that Index Card RPG 3 should be Dungeons & Dragons 60. Brandish Gilhelm should refresh the art. The rules should be changed by no more than 10%, and any changes should only make the game run faster. If anything is made to add to slow it down, it's a failure, right, on the part of WotC. And I don't think that would happen. And the reason why is the whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle, would be overseen by Kate Walsh, which would deliver the first female design lead in the history of the game. That's an incredibly important milestone. It's lock solid. You cannot have a less risky plan with an almost guaranteed success outcome. All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.